Here we go, let's start this show. Steelers by the land. It's time to get that day. James, Cody, Nick, and Jill on the mic. It's about to get real. Keep it live, that's right. From Pennsylvania to across the globe. It's time for the Steelers All-Star Show.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James, joined once again by my friends Jill from Ohio and Nick Pretzel. Folks, how are you doing this chilly Saturday morning? It's playoff time.
We're starting it early. We're getting it ready. Alani, shout out Alani.
Not sponsored, but Mountain Dew. I've got the Maui Burst. I'm feeling summer vibes because I want to send the Ravens to Cancun. You know, it's a good day here. They're going to be taking their break. So we got some good stuff to talk about. James, how are you this morning?
Yeah,
I'm doing well. Jill, I don't think you got to say how you were doing. How are you?
I'm feeling a little nervous. But I think that's all of Steeler Nation right now. It's down to the wire. Everything on the line. It's feeling a little nerve-wracking, but other than that, I'm doing pretty great. So, James, how are you?
I'm doing good. I got dream float because I got playoff dreams today.
Playoff dreams.
So
there we go.
That's what we're talking about today. I'm dreaming of a Steelers championship. We got it right here. It says dreaming of a Steelers championship, one of the many things in the background. That's what we got going on, but we got to get through the Baltimore Ravens first, right? So huge matchup tomorrow on primetime Sunday night, and Pittsburgh's making moves beforehand to make sure they're as prepared as they possibly can be, just like we're preparing with our caffeine drinks this morning to make sure we've got the right energy for you folks. First things first, the sad news of Darnell Washington unfortunately gets placed on the injured reserve. That means he needs to be there for at least 4 weeks. So that does hold out the extreme hope of if Pittsburgh were to pull this off and make the playoff run and get all the way to the Super Bowl, he would be eligible to come off of injured reserve before the Super Bowl. Not saying that I think that they're going all the way to the Super Bowl. I would love for it to happen. But if they do, he would be eligible technicality-wise to come off. And that's all depending on whether or not that arm is good by then, too, because it did require surgery, which usually indicates compound fracture and having to reset a bone and stuff like that. That is usually a little bit more time-consuming as far as the recovery process. So bad news on that, but that did mean it opened up a spot for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And with that spot, Pittsburgh signs Jack Driscoll, offensive lineman, to the 53-man roster. You figured this was going to happen when you lose Darnell, who is a tight end, but oftentimes serves as that extra offensive lineman type guy that you throw out there to throw some blocks, to be a part of that Spartan formation. And this week, they're really going to be focusing on trying to figure out how to make that formation still work without Darnell in the lineup. We saw them try to use it against the Browns actually, once Darnell was out, they didn't even really try to use it against the Browns because they took a deep shot to Scotty Miller on the perimeter that was not looking too great. So hopefully they can figure out a way to make that formation still work, because we've seen a lot of creativity come out of that. We've seen pitches to Connor Hayward. We've seen pitches to Kenny Gainwell, who, as we will mention here, is doing great things for us this year. But yeah, it's an important part of this offense, especially when we get into third and short, fourth and short situations or goal line situations. And so you hope that they'll be able to find a way to keep it effective without Darnell on the field, because he's just a mammoth of a man. We wish the best to Darnell because, you know, we love talking about him on the show. We love having him on the team. He's a great part of the team player kind of guy, goes out there and does what he's told to do and does it well. And so we hope that he heals up, and we wish him the best in his recovery, and can't wait to see him back on the field.
Yeah. And I think also signing Driscoll to the 53, I believe, wasn't he out of elevations?
Correct. That was it.
Had to sign him to the 53 if that's the move that we wanted to do. But I do feel like we might see some of those jumbo packages still, even though we don't have Darnell, because Sam Alu was cleared. So
that's it.
I feel like maybe I might put a lot of faith in Arthur Smith this game to just let's get creative with eligible men. maybe tinfoil over here with the Spencer Anderson receiving. I don't know. It could. There's lots of potential here. It sucks without Darnell, though. I mean, he really helped with the run blocking. Really was dynamic with that, where he played in our run game. So it's quite unfortunate that we don't have him. But we do have some guys coming off of injuries that is promising. So
yeah, absolutely. And so a corresponding move that meant there was a practice squad place eligible. They signed tight end / fullback Jaheim Bell, who Jaheim is 6'2", 241, kind of fits that fullback type frame. Arthur Smith did indicate in his press conference this week that there was a backup plan to Darnell Washington, and it was going to be implemented this week. Was not willing to share it with the media. I'm glad he did not, because you don't want anyone to know what it is until it's on the field and they have to scramble. So that's where the Sayamalu injury is such an important thing that Jill just spoke about, because that does free up Spencer Anderson to take over the pusher role, as I would think the most likely candidate. First off, there's a couple of defensive linemen that I would love to see as reserve defensive linemen, like a Logan Lee or a Sezi Otomewo. I feel like frame-wise, strength-wise, they're probably going to be pretty similar. But I think Spencer Anderson probably gets the first crack. Maybe even the newly signed tight end, maybe he's a guy that could do something like that. So it's got to be somebody with some size and strength. You can't just put a 220-pound guy back there and think he's going to push the pile and move it. So has to be somebody with some size. Speaking of somebody with some size, we got our Steelers Rookie of the Year announced.
Yeah, let's talk about some awards. Derek Harmon announced as the Steelers Rookie of the Year. Can't say enough about what he's done. When we've got him, the run defense is incredible. When we've not got him, it's significantly worse.
Yep.
And he's talked about how much he's gotten to learn from Cam, which is an awesome thing to have, a guy who, one, has always said he modeled his game after Cam Hayward, to then be able to learn from a guy who at 36, 37 is out there and still putting out incredible tape, putting up great numbers, and to be able to have your young star first-round defensive tackle come in and learn from that guy is invaluable. So I can't wait to see what we have from this kid. I have a feeling he's going to be the next captain of this defense for quite some time, alongside TJ while we've still got him. But TJ's not getting younger either. So you need these types of guys who can learn from those veterans who are in the room and can learn moves from people in and outside of their position, because if you talk to a strong outside linebacker, you can learn how to contribute better from your position, because the defense is complementary. All the pieces work together. So it's a really good thing to have these solid vets in the room, like Jalen Ramsey, like TJ Watt, like Cam Hayward, to teach these young guys like Derek Harmon. Joey Porter Jr. is learning from the secondary vets. It's a good situation to be in. And Derek Harmon went out there and proved himself to be worthy of this Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't say enough positive things about Derek Harmon from this year. And like you mentioned, just a drastic difference in the defensive run capabilities, run stopping capabilities when he's out there versus when he's not. Now, I have to admit that we've seen some real nice improvement over the season from Y.A. Black. He had a dominant preseason, kind of got a little bit rocky in the early to mid portions of the season, but as of late, he's been very dominant as well. So we might have really struck gold in this last draft class on the defensive line, and not a moment too late either. As we expect Cam Hayward to be closer to the end of his career than the beginning, obviously. And you said he's either 36 or 37. I don't know.
We just had to troll the teacher in the room. We just had to.
I had to do that for Jill. Sorry. Not sure which one it is. But,
hey, and also if just putting this back on for a moment, if we go for on a Super Bowl run, we'll go from 6 to 7 Super Bowl wins there as a franchise too. So.
You know what? I'll allow it. If it gets to the Super Bowl, sure. Say it as many times.
Jill, if we win the Super Bowl, will you 6-7 for us?
Absolutely. 100.
Yes.
Zero question.
What if Darnell Washington comes back for the Super Bowl? How tall is he again?
6'7". 6'7".
All right, now we're just having fun with it. Back to some other fun things. Finally, the jersey number 14 not just cursed in Pittsburgh Steelers history anymore. And Kenny Gainwell breaks it all by winning team MVP. And you can't say enough things about him. A couple of times this season, he's been called on to be the featured ball carrier for the Steelers and really stepped up huge in both games. He's made incredible catches from his backside, peeling them off the ground where it's inches away from being an incomplete pass. He's been very instrumental to the success of this team this year and wins the team MVP, which is voted by his peers.
That's amazing.
So awesome. I'm very happy for Kenny and think he's very much so deserving of this award.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, very much earned. Nobody would have thought when you signed Kenny Gainwell to the practice squad that we or not to the practice squad, but to the team in the offseason that we would have been talking about him this much or in this positive of a light, because we knew he could contribute, but he'd always kind of been the second fiddle to Saquon Barkley or to whoever else was with the Eagles at the time before they signed Saquon. And, to see him come in and contribute in this way is just great. So love Kenny. Hope we keep him around. We'll see what happens in the offseason, but hopefully we aren't talking about the offseason for another month. So
he's the free agent, so he gets to go wherever he wants to this season. But he did mention that he's enjoyed this season with Pittsburgh and would like to return if the opportunity arose. And I think Pittsburgh will probably try to keep him, I believe, especially if they keep Arthur Smith at offensive coordinator, because that's something that he really enjoys, is having a versatile receiving back like Kenny Gainwell. So something that could be very instrumental for our success in the future, not just in tomorrow's game, but if a postseason run happens and then in future seasons as well. Sad news after this, Hines Ward does not make the finalist list for the Modern Era Hall of Famers. And there's a pretty daunting list this season, to be honest. Some of these first-year candidates in Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Eli Manning, Terrell Suggs, Jason Witten. It's kind of a real serious list of guys that were not eligible previously, so it does make sense. Some of those guys, like I feel personally, Drew Brees has got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Larry Fitzgerald, some of the numbers he's put up throughout his career, just incredible. Jason Witten, when it comes to historic tight ends in the NFL, has all kinds of records. And it makes it difficult to not put guys like this in first ballot. Luke Kuechly had a short career, but he was the best middle linebacker in the league for his whole career. So that's tough. Like Terrell Suggs, as much as I don't like him, he had like 139 career sacks. That's tough not to put a guy like that in. Adam Vinatieri, one of the best kickers in NFL history. Like, this is a pretty serious list this year, and there's 3 wide receivers on it. We've talked about this briefly before. You'll hear it on other shows too, like Steelers Depot. They got a lot of great information there. The wide receiver logjam is a very serious thing. That's a problem for Hines Ward. And consistently, Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne now are getting to this finalist list every year above him, and neither one of them are getting in.
Yeah.
So we need one of these guys to start getting in, and I think it starts with Larry Fitzgerald this year, hopefully. Then one of the next ones next year, and then he can finally start creeping into this finalist list. But it's a slippery slope, man, because some of these guys coming up in behind him, like Antonio Brown's going to be eligible soon. And I know that he's not a favorable first person as far as the media and what he did off the field, but his on-the-field resume might be better than what Hines's was.
Yeah.
So some of these guys coming up might push Hines down and might leave him in that semifinalist situation, which is just frustrating.
Right. When overall Hines is better on and off, well, like more so off the field and how he led the team. And I feel like that's something that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, you know, these people who get in the Hall of Fame, that speaks for what character and, you know, pure talent that people are bringing. So it would make me not happy if Antonio Brown got in before Hines, but I also understand because he was a freak of nature on the field. So
absolutely. And one of the things they always say is when you're trying to figure out if somebody should go into the Hall of Fame, The question you ask yourself is, can you tell the story of the NFL without telling the story of that player? And to me, that's where Hines does qualify, because they did change rules because of how good of a blocker he was and how many defenders he knocked out. Honestly, just knocked out cold. The way he got hit and got back up smiling every single time, no matter how hard you hit him. The way he kind of revolutionized in that time frame how much the wide receiver pass started being used. He was doing that a lot as a guy, as a former quarterback. He was an eligible guy who did throw the ball a decent amount for Pittsburgh and with success, and that made things a lot more unpredictable during those Super Bowl runs. So that to me is where that helps his case, but the 0 first team All-Pros hurts him. But the Super Bowl MVP helps him. But the 5 Pro Bowls is less than the number that usually people have when they get in. So it's such a mixed bag with him. On this part is an absolute yes, and this part is kind of maybe borderline. And that's where I struggle with it. I would love to see Hines get in, but it's tough. I wish his resume was just a hair stronger, you know?
Has the Pro Bowl always been voted on by like fans? Has that always, because
that's a more recent thing.
Okay, because that to me, like, you know, when I think of Hall of Fame ballots as in this coming era, I'm like, Pro Bowls don't even matter. Like to me, they have no merit. But I'm like, well, when Hines actually went to a Pro Bowl, you know what I mean? Like that actually carries weight versus guys who are making the Pro Bowl in this day and age. So
yeah,
and even back in the day,
we had Tyler Huntley make a Pro Bowl a few years ago, and he had 4 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the season, and he got voted in somehow. So it did turn into a joke at some point in time.
Right.
And now it's flag football as opposed to real football. And there were some times in the Pro Bowl where people were laying real hits, and it was like it's not even a game that really matters that much. And back in the day, they had more skill challenges. Today, it's like, let's go play dodgeball. You know, it's not an act. It's that's just playing a game. It's not like, at this point, it's not even a sport. It's like a gym class. And so it's like, back in the day, you had people throwing who could throw the farthest. And I know sometimes they still have like the hit the targets and things along those lines, but it was actually a competitive thing back in the day. And now it's flag football and dodgeball. And
I never even watch it. Like it just
it's not worth watching anymore.
No.
It's just annoying in my opinion.
I feel like there are certain events that they could probably bring back that would bring some of the excitement back to it. For me, one of them was when they used to do the NFL's Fastest Man. So out of the guys that qualified for the Pro Bowl, you had like a 40-yard dash competition almost, but it was like a 4-man relay. So 4 guys racing at the same time.
Oh, heck yeah.
Top 2 guys went on to the next round, and you had like maybe 16 guys to start off with. You whittled it down to 2, and then whoever wins that final sprint is the NFL's Fastest Man. That's something I think would bring people to watch. Now, the flip side is everyone going to want to do that, knowing that sprinting something like that, if you don't properly prepare, you could pull a hammy and maybe mess something up for yourself the next year. I don't know. I think it's a little less likely of an injury risk than other things are. Another one they used to do was how many times you could bench press 225. Like the NFL scouting combine, they did that at the Pro Bowl. You know, so all your big boys, your offensive and defensive linemen, the guys that thought they were the strongest, march up their man to 1 year. Casey Hampton did 49 reps.
Holy crap.
Yeah, see, like that stuff is actual competition, and it's authentic, and it feels more real, and it feels more exciting when you go out there and you perform but this flag football, dodgeball, jump onto a giant mat and dodge this thing, like it all just seems cheap and not exciting anymore to me. I don't like the Pro Bowl anymore. It's lost a lot of allure.
I've enjoyed the relay race thing that they do, where they're going over obstacles and whatnot. But outside of that, a lot of the rest of it is just kind of like to me. But I feel like if you get some of these other things that we just discussed back into it, you'll get the competitive juices going on guys that are extremely competitive. Like this is the highest level of competitive and big egos in professional sports.
Yeah.
So find some things like that these guys will want to compete in, and I think you'll bring some viewership back to the Pro Bowl and probably move it back to Hawaii where it belongs to. I don't know.
Yeah. But one more note for the Hall of Fame: LC Greenwood is in for the senior class.
He's a finalist, right?
Yeah.
So we got to get an LC in there finally.
Yeah. So here's to hoping for LC.
Yeah, and that means we all have to go buy gold shoes, just like LC used to wear too. You guys ever hear the gold shoe story from LC Greenwood on why he did that?
I did. It was because he was not getting credit for his sacks, and so he wanted them to see him on the field.
Shoes.
Yep. Yeah. He wanted to make sure he was getting credit for his play out there.
You know what? I like it.
And it worked. I mean, on that defense, you better do something to stand out because everybody was incredible on that defense. So completely get it. Time for us to move on to the next part of this show, which is going to be the injury report. And we're going to start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things. And that's it. We wrap that up over to the Baltimore Ravens side.
Literally, our injury report is chef's kiss just in time. We're looking like it's the beginning of the season again. Like, I love it. The only one who did not participate on Friday was Isaac Seumalo. But it looked like that is veteran rest, not tricep related, because he was limited. He was full on Thursday and then just rested on Friday. Everybody else was full on Friday, including TJ Watt. So we just Calvin Austin, Brandon Eccles, James Pierre. We got everybody back, baby. So we are looking good on our side. For the Ravens, there are three. Well, before any comments about how we're looking healthy.
It's so important. It couldn't have come at a better time. Like especially the secondary guys, you want to be able to force Baltimore to be one-dimensional, right? And I think that Pittsburgh's starting three corners are good enough to do that. Yeah. I think they can match up with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. I think the linebackers can take away the tight ends. But you got to be able to leave Jalen Ramsey at safety. That's the key.
Yes.
So to me, I'm almost more excited about the fact that Jalen Ramsey gets to stay at safety and probably take away the tight ends more than I am the other guys coming back. I'm very grateful to have Eccles and Pierre back. I think they've played very well this season for Pittsburgh. I'd like to see them in future seasons with Pittsburgh. But being able to keep Jalen Ramsey at free safety is so important, man. We can't have any more of these overrunning interceptions and not being where you're supposed to be. And Ramsey is such a key communicator in that secondary that is just incredible. And what can we say about TJ Watt, right? Give this team credit. They held it together. They went 2-1 without him. They went 2-1 without him.
Which we had only won one game before.
1-11 without TJ. So now we're 3-12.
Way better.
That is better.
We're
than
improving the ratio. We're improving the ratio. I've got my Steelers quarter zip on today with my "Don't worry, be happy" in the black and gold on here because that's my motto this week. We got these guys back. We're trusting the process. We're trusting the team. We're trusting in the Steelers. We trust this week. All right. So we're gonna be optimistic about Seumalo's contusion to the birth certificate because that's just injury related, or just age related. And the only other person that we're missing otherwise would be available to the team is DK, who had a contusion to his temperament control. So we're hoping to get DK back next week because we're hoping to be playing next week. And this is the best shot we've had to do that since, because obviously we talked about it last week. Too much focus on Myles Garrett. There's none of that this week. This week is get into the playoffs. This week is prepare to play without Darnell, not have the, oh, shoot, we don't have Darnell moment. Yeah. This week is a full week of preparation to go in there and say, we're going to do what we need to do to get into the playoffs. And that's a positive thing for me. And as is the Ravens injury list, which we'll get to here shortly.
Yeah, and Spencer Anderson being available because he's not playing left guard is so important.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, Calvin Austin being back. This is possibly his last game as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah.
This is the last game of his rookie deal, which expires at the end of this season. He's got everything to prove, and Baltimore made it very clear after the draft that year that they wanted to draft him, and Pittsburgh sniped him. So he's got a lot to prove to Pittsburgh fans. He did not have the greatest year so far. With DK out, there's a lot of pressure on him. Pressure makes diamonds. It also makes people crack, right? So which way is this going to go? It's an enormous game for Calvin Austin and his career, whether it be in Pittsburgh or somewhere else. So this is enormous for Calvin. And he was asked in his press conference this week, how does he feel about them possibly playing man? And he said, I hope they play man coverage on me.
All right. Period.
I love that vibe going into this game. Let's talk about the Ravens, Joe. What do you got on
That's the cocky. Well, real quick, since we are talking about Calvin Austin, I do think we won't see. I think that spells the end for at least this season, unless there's post playoff hopes and dreams. I don't think we'll see Roman Wilson again. So with Calvin coming back, which is kind of, I just feel like Mike Tomlin was like making a big deal about utilizing him, and then we just never did.
Yeah.
And like with, he would get a couple of targets here and there, but I mean, last week was, I know you guys we were rehashing last week, but like last week was atrocious with his, like he was only out there for what, 9 snaps, maybe
nine snaps and 0 targets.
Yeah.
But you have to figure that with MVS's performance, we're going to see less of MVS this week with Calvin being back. Hopefully we see Roman Wilson get more opportunity this week in a rotational capacity, because you don't necessarily want to see him out there every play because he's not as proven, but he's had the opportunity to sit back. He's had the opportunity to watch and learn, and he's going to go out there and at least throw a block for you.
Right.
So you figure that hopefully you see a little bit more of him utilized as at least a rotational piece this week to give him a shot to come back and use what he's learned and to improve and to grow. Because the only way you're going to improve is to get more reps and more opportunity. He's had the chance to sit back and watch and learn now. So let's get the kid back out there. And is the season on the line game the best game to do that? Probably not. But you're not getting much out of MVS anyway. No. So what's it going to hurt is the way I look at it. So hopefully we see him utilized a bit more in this game. If not, I mean, this is technically his rookie year with how injured he was his true rookie year.
Right.
So we've still got time with Roman. I don't think he's gone after this year, but at the least it might be the last we see of him if we don't make a run.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, now back to the Ravens and their injuries. We only have 3 guys that are questionable for Sunday. We've got Rashad Bateman, who did not participate all week due to an illness. The flu, I believe, is going around the Ravens locker room because Marlon Humphrey also reported with an illness. He was not there at all Wednesday, Thursday, did not participate on Friday, is questionable to go Sunday. I think both of those guys go. And then defensive tackle Taven Bryan was limited, was full, but he is questionable with a knee injury. They also have an offensive tackle, Ronnie Stanley, that did not participate on Friday. So he was limited, he was full, he did not participate. He's listed with a knee injury, but he has no game status. Everybody else on their injury list was full participant on Friday, so they're all suspected to go.
Yeah, I like how, honestly, this team's a lot more beat up in Pittsburgh right now when you look at this injury list. Not just the sickness, guys. It's been pretty well documented about Lamar Jackson this week. He finally got a full week of practice in for the first time in like 8 weeks, I think they said.
Yeah.
But that back injury that he's coming back from, that was no joke. He got cracked in the back bad enough to miss an entire game.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to be 100% in this game. You got a couple of guys going from limited to full to okay, I'm good too. So that makes you wonder about them, like you just mentioned with Ronnie Stanley. He went limited, full, and now we're not worried, apparently. Same with Kyle Van Noy. He was a DNP on Thursday with a quad injury, and then full, and then fine. We're not worried about it. So, like, I think there's a few guys that are a little more banged up than they're letting on to. And that would be a beneficial thing for Pittsburgh, no doubt about it. With the biggest one really being let's talk about it, Lamar Jackson. If he's not 100% and he's out there, that really changes how you address things. When Pittsburgh played them a few weeks back, we did not worry about Lamar Jackson scrambling the football because he was not 100%. And TJ sold out against Derrick Henry and tackled him behind or at the line like 4 or 5 times in that game. I would anticipate a similar strategy if Lamar is out there and doesn't look like he can move 100%. Because why are you going to respect his scrambling ability if he's out there in pain and barely moving?
Right. I mean, I think it's bold that he's even playing, but I get it. The season's on the line, so he's like, get me out there. But I think that swings in our favor where it does take away that dimension of him scrambling out of the pocket and gaining yardage, because that's not his only lower body injury. I feel like he's been battling lower bodies for this whole season. And so now it's the back, and it was like knee. I don't even know what his prior injury was, but it's all impacting his scramble ability. And so, and with us having Derek Harmon back and how much he contributes to our run defense, I feel like we have the possibility to take the run game completely away and force them to throw, which would be, and then our corners could have a day. And we could have a day. Like we could have a day.
Absolutely. So over to the depth chart. Nick, you want to start off with the side of things for the Ravens?
Let's get it going. We all know, as Tomlin would say, we know them, they know us. So we're all very familiar with the Baltimore Ravens depth chart, but we will go over it quickly here. Quarterback Lamar Jackson is backed up by Tyler Huntley. The primary backup used to be Cooper Rush, who is still on the roster, but not likely to see the field if Lamar does go down. Excuse me. We talked a little bit about their wide receivers already. They've got Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. They're backed up by DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Walker, not in that order. It's actually reversed. But with Bateman questionable with his illness, DeAndre Hopkins would most likely be the primary guy to see the field there, which is why I mentioned him as the primary backup there. Moving over to the tight end room, probably the bigger threats on this team other than Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But we've got Mark Andrews backed up by Isaiah Likely, and then Charlie Kohler has seen some playing time as well, has contributed in some big moments when either of those guys weren't able to go, so he's still an option that they have on their team there. Anything you want to talk about in this pass catching room or about the quarterbacks? We kind of touched on these guys a little bit already as we were talking about the injuries, but anything you want to discuss about the pass catchers before we move to offensive line and running backs?
Just don't let Zay have a day, right? That's everything to me. I don't think that the tight end production has been as big this year as it has in previous years. So I'm most worried about Zay Flowers. You keep track of him, and I think you can really limit that passing offense.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned before too, James, with Lamar potentially not being 100%, that bodes well in our favor as well there. Moving on to the running back room, we've got Derrick Henry backed up by Keyshawn Mitchell, and Rasheem Ali, who has also seen some playing time, as these Ravens backs are known to be slightly injury prone. We also talked, I don't remember if it was in the show or pre-show, but Derrick Henry has had some fumbling issues, which could be a real thing that we could exploit with our staunch run defense that Jill just mentioned. And then fullback Patrick Ricard is also listed on this roster. They do list the fullback.
Which is true, right? That's one of the biggest fullbacks in the entire NFL. So you got to account for him. Got to make sure somebody from that linebacker room is meeting him in the hole and stuffing him. Don't let him change the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, we don't need him springing holes for Derrick Henry in our defense at all. We talked about the line a bit with injuries as well. There's Ronnie Staley as the primary left tackle, left guard Andrew Voorhees, center Tyler Lindenbaum, right guard Daniel Falale, and right tackle Roger Rosengarten. A pretty solid offensive line that they've got here. And I mean, you see that with a lot of these games that Derrick Henry's had, a lot of the rushes that Lamar Jackson is able to rip off. Those are both talented runners, but they also get some holes sprung for them by these guys. Hopefully, if Stanley isn't 100%, our edge rushers can make some good use of that. I believe he's primarily going to be lining up against Highsmith. Am I correct in that?
Yep, that's Highsmith's side.
And with TJ back in the lineup, you only figure Alex is going to increase his production as well. He's been playing great for us with TJ out. So getting TJ back is only going to make it easier for Alex because he's going to get less chips. TJ is going to get more of those types of situations. So we should see some good play from our defense. And speaking of defense, James, you want to take the defense?
Yeah, and real quick, the opportunity for Pittsburgh here. You got to shut the Ravens down on first and second down and make them throw.
Yeah.
Because the guards for this team are two of the worst in the NFL. Falele has just been abused all season long. In fact, in the first matchup with Pittsburgh, Brandon Eccles beat him for a sack. That's right. Our nickel corner beat the 370-pound guard for a sack. He's been bull rushed and beat. His pass protection is just where he has a problem. He gets on his heels and he gets knocked back big time. Voorhees has been just as big of an issue on the left side, just not bullied as easily. So both of these guys very susceptible. Again, last time we played them, we got pass rush from the interior because these two are not good pass blockers. So got to take advantage of that again this week. Defensive side of things, the Baltimore Ravens, as we are very familiar with, for years and years have played a 4-3 defense. They are continuing to do so. The defensive linemen for these folks, the defensive tackles listed as John Jenkins and Travis Jones. Travis Jones was a higher draft pick a few years ago, somebody I really liked coming out of the draft. The defensive end is listed as Brent Urban on the opposite side. The rush end, which is just an odd way of saying it, is either Draymond Jones or Tavius Robinson. They got them both listed as starters. Their three linebackers in their 4-3 will be Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, and Kyle Van Noy. So that's your linebacker crew there. David Ojabo listed as a backup there. He does sprinkle in a decent amount as a pass rusher too, so I would anticipate seeing some of him. In the secondary for the Ravens, Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins, their starters. Humphrey not 100% right now. He was on that injury list we were just talking about. Wiggins is the taller, thinner, fast corner on the other side, who is not a good tackler and absolutely can be taken advantage with his lack of physicality. At the safety room, Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. Kyle Hamilton has been well documented as one of the slowest safeties in the entire NFL. If you see him one-on-one matchups with wide receivers, he gets exposed over and over. So try to find a way to get him one-on-one with a wide receiver. Your wide receiver will win 9 times out of 10. Malachi Starks was a rookie, and then they do use a decent amount of Alohi Gilman as they move Kyle Hamilton around in this defense all over the place. So a versatile guy, just not the fastest guy in the world. And that's something you can exploit if you do it correctly. Even Gainwell, probably you go one-on-one Gainwell versus Hamilton. Gainwell ought to be able to beat him. Yeah. Anything you guys want to talk about any of these players? I mean, this is one of the weakest pass rushing teams in the NFL. Last time we played the Ravens, Rodgers sat back there and was very comfortable. Oftentimes 4, 5, 6 seconds just waiting for somebody to pop open, which they eventually will due to the lack of pass rush by the Baltimore Ravens. So that's something that's a drastic change from last week.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think that's what we'll see is Rodgers actually taking his time versus last week when they were it felt like the objective was don't let Garrett break the record. So now you're not worried about somebody breaking a record. You're worried about making sure you win the game. And I feel like Aaron will sit back there. He'll do his reads. He'll make sure that he gets the guys that are open, which will also allow our receivers to do their job, run their route. Yeah. And actually be able to be on target or hit their targets. So, and I mean, Calvin Austin's a good route runner. So we might see if our O-line can hold well, which they have. Honestly, they've been very good this season. to give Rodgers the time and give Austin the time to run the route, I think we'll see a successful pass game.
Yeah, we definitely passed all over them last time out. And the thing that slightly concerns me is that DK Metcalf had most of those yards.
Kill him.
Yeah, he had 148 yards against them receiving last time. Had a long reception of 52. So
First play of the game.
We got other guys involved. Jalen Warren was the second best receiver on the field that day. But we're going to have to start involving some of these other guys that we've got available to us, which I'm sure will be a big part of some of our keys to success here coming up after we move on.
Get 88 the ball.
But we've really got to get the pass game going because, I mean, the leading tackler on their team was Roquan Smith last time we were out against them. So after that, it was Wiggins, Humphrey, and Starks. So you can see kind of how we exploited their weaknesses last time. We kind of had their number, and it was in their own house. So this time we have the home field advantage. Obviously, we're down DK, which is not ideal, but we've got a lot of these guys back. The defense should be able to show up and show out, and I don't want to have to rely on them, but if they can help us put them in bad situations, it'll sort of bail out the fact that we're down our star receiver for this game. So hopefully some of the guys that are given the opportunity, I mean, we just talked about Roman Wilson. Hopefully he can step up. Hopefully Thielen can step up. Hopefully now that we aren't using Gainwell and Freiermuth to chip Myles Garrett on every play of the game, we can have those guys contribute in the ways that they're used to contributing. Now that we have Sam Malu back and we can use Spencer Anderson and jumbo packages, hopefully we can see more of that come back. So we have now a healthier roster in the most crucial points of the season to be able to get us into the playoffs, to be able to get DK back, to be able to have that home field advantage if we do make the playoffs, and then be able to hopefully make a run. So it all comes down to this. Tomlin knows that. He's the great player motivator, so hopefully he can use those skills to motivate some of these other guys to say, all right, this is the epitome of the Tomlinism. The standard is the standard. Like, we're not down too many starters, but we've got crucial pieces that are either injured or suspended. So this is the moment that everyone needs to elevate that play and say, all right, we need to go out there, play Steeler football in our house, and take this AFC North championship game into the playoffs.
Absolutely. So before we move on to keys to success, score predictions, we do have to talk special teams real quick. So special teams for the Baltimore Ravens, the punter and holder, Jordan Stout, kicker, Tyler Loop, long snapper is Nick Moore. On kick return duties, they've got Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali, and LaJohntay Wester all listed. Punt return, they got LaJohntay Wester listed as their starter with Tylon Wallace as the backup. Quick question for you guys. If you had somewhere that you wanted to go to watch the game, where do you think you'd go?
Well, I know where I'm going to go. And if you all want to join me, you can find me and a buddy of mine. We're going to be heading over to the Edinburgh Hotel Bar to watch the game this week. So if you're feeling like getting some fantastic food and watching the most important game of this season for us thus far in the greatest atmosphere you could find, take yourself down to the Edinburgh Hotel Bar.
Steelers by the Lake is sponsored in part by the Edinburgh Hotel Bar at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh, with a full menu including daily lunch and dinner specials, a family-friendly, smoke-free environment. Details are available at 814-734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you had me at hotel.
They'll have me at hotel on Sunday. So
Hey.
If it wasn't a Sunday night game, I'd come out and join you. But it's it's a good half hour, 45 minutes back to my house from there. So,
Mm.
and I get up
And
for
you
work
got-
at 2:30 on Monday mornings.
I was gonna say you got
Yes,
early Monday
not.
mornings, so yeah, I don't
It's
blame
not
you, especially in
feasible.
this weather. So we'll get one in maybe if there's an early playoff matchup for us, or maybe for the
Yes.
Super Bowl to throw a real shindig. We'll get
Perfect.
something going. But
Well, we're there, guys. It's time for keys to success. We need to know how Pittsburgh is going to win this game, and they need to know, and they listen to our show. So we got to tell them what's going on here.
Yeah.
Who wants to start this week? Which one of you would like to be number one in order here on keys to success?
Doesn't matter to me.
I'll bookend it. To start off, I want to hold their leading passer, so I want the passing yards, and then their leading rusher, who I assume to be Henry, to be held under 250 yards total. Not the whole offense, just the passing game and their leading rusher. In the games where that has been done, they have not won. Point blank, period. So if we can hold Lamar Jackson's passing, or if he gets injured, which I hope he doesn't, because I think we can exploit him. If we can hold him and most likely Henry, but whoever their leading rusher is, to under 250 total yards, we should win the game.
I like it. I like it. Joe, would you like to go next and get one of yours out of the way?
Yeah. Mine is about Derrick Henry. Because the last game we held him to 94, 95 rushing yards. 94. Okay. And so I think it's copy paste from that game. Hold him under 100 yards rushing, and we will win the game.
I like it. That's such an important thing, because when they go away from Derrick Henry, bad things happen. So if you can keep that production under 100 yards, I think that they're going to start trying to look in other directions to move the football, and that's when turnovers happen, and that's when they lose games. All right, so that puts me 2 at the turn. That means I get both of my choices. I'm pretty happy about this. Number one, I'm going to take the one that's going to probably more likely be one that one of the two of you, maybe even both of you, would have been leaning towards, just to give you more time to come up with an alternate plan. Right?
We appreciate you.
I'm
So
considerate.
kind. You are. Wow.
Don't call
Good
me
guy,
late for
James.
dinner, and don't call me inconsiderate. That's got to go on, right? So number one key for me for success in this game, I want to see at least 8 targets to Pat Freiermuth with 5 receptions.
Yes.
It's time to
Love
get
it.
Pat heavily involved in this game with Darnell Washington out, with DK Metcalf out. Let's not wait until the final drive of the game to start throwing Pat the ball. Involve him early and often throughout this game. I think if you can get him heavily involved in this game, you're going to move the chains. You're going to get points. And I don't think this is going to be like a 30 to 35 kind of game. So you need to score every time you get an opportunity. You've got to move the ball. Don't leave the defense in a situation where they're on the field nonstop. So we got to move the chains. I need Pat Freiermuth targeted at least 8 times. 8 targets, 5 catches. That's what I'm calling for Pat.
Love. I mean,
Give us more. Give us more than that, Steelers. Like, at least. That's an at least.
But like when you talk about, and he's been stated as having like the best hands on the team, and when you have the year, I mean, I know he's close to 500 yards on the season. I think we're under the, like, I don't know how many he needs now, but it's like probably close to like the 70.
Yeah, I say it's 70, 80, right around there. Yeah.
Yeah. But when he is stated to have the best hands on the team, and to see, as of recently, like the lack of involvement, or it's in times where you're waiting till the last 2 minutes of the game and then you see success, I'm like, why weren't we doing that the whole game? So I love it, James. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Thank you. And I feel like it's one of those things this year. The tight end room has just not played out the way we thought it was going to. But it's really close between Pat and Johnny on usage. 38 catches for Pat Freiermuth, 37 catches for Jonnu Smith. But Pat's got 435 yards on those catches. Jonnu Smith only 220.
That's very telling.
Big variance on how we're using these guys and how they're getting the ball down the field. If you would have asked any of us preseason, we probably would have had that flip-flopped. If anybody's going to get the ball thrown to him and not get very far, it's probably Pat. Jonnu's the more athletic guy. Well, Didn't play out that way. Pat just has a nose for moving the ball down the field and finding empty spaces in the defense. Time to take full advantage of that. On the flip side, I think a guy that has been on fire in the last month and a half or so continues that this week. I'm calling for another big game out of Alex Highsmith. You can't double him because TJ Watt's back on the other side going against Roger Bummengarden, and he's going to take full advantage of that lineup over there. Alex Highsmith gets us 2 more sacks this week and makes Lamar Jackson uncomfortable on his side, gets double digits on the season by doing so, and that would put him probably most likely leading the team in the end of the season here. Right now, he is leading the team in sacks with 8.5. I think 2 more for Alex Highsmith, and just what has been a dominant November and December for him finishes off on a strong foot. I think if you do that, that is very instrumental. He's shut that side down. People can't run by him, and he's getting to the quarterback like crazy. So I got 2 sacks for Alex Highsmith in this game.
I like it. Now I'm torn between 2.
You're back, Joe. You got your second.
I'm back, and I have 2 that I've thought of, and now I'm torn between them. So I think I'm gonna go with the running because I went stop Derrick Henry. We need to run like we ran the ball against Detroit. I would like to see 200 rushing yards between our running backs. And then you won't be able to stop us because at that point, if we have that many rushing yards, we're playing ahead of schedule or on schedule. You can open up the pass game to get Freiermuth his 8 targets. Like I would like to see at least a 400-yard game offensively. So
I like it, Joe.
Yeah, because that's one of those things. You move the ball that well, you take the will from the other team.
Yes,
now, that's a lot of this. It's who can be the tougher team, who's going to play bully ball, who's going to dictate the pace of the game. And when you run that successfully, that's exactly what you're doing. So I love that.
Yeah.
Especially when we beat them last time with only 34 rushing yards. I'll take 200. I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? You've got to come out and dominate at this point.
You do.
You know, the season is on the line. This is essentially a playoff game because it's do or die at this point. So I think with us losing to the Browns and looking not great, but taking a pitiful loss, you know, we had some good moments and our defense was good despite all odds. But like when you lose to the 3-12 or whatever their record was at that point, Browns, I feel like we're going to come out of this week going, we've got a point to prove. We've got a fan base now. We're at home. So one of 2 things is going to happen. We're going to absolutely dominate, or you're going to have half your crowd leaving at halftime and chanting "Fire Mike Tomlin." Like it's either we're all really happy or there are going to be some nasty chants going on at, I almost called it Heinz Field again. So it just, you know, when I feel like there are times when it's push comes to shove and the Steelers do show up and they show out, and it's typically against an AFC North rival. We're always physical against Baltimore. We always have their number at some point. So I think this can be the game that they actually show up with dominance, because I would rather it not be battle of the mid, to quote Dave from Steelers Depot. He's like, it's the mid bowl. Because just mid, and I was cackling. That was so funny. So I'd like to see some good football, and that starts.
All right, it's time for mine. Because as Joe mentioned, we did lose to the Browns last week, but that does make them slightly worse in draft position. So I mean, slight strategy here with the tinfoil hat on. The Browns be Browning, so now they're not as high of draft capital, so we'll take that any day. And we still have the chance to make the playoffs by knocking off the Baltimore Ravens. So I think in order to do that, we need to get after Lamar Jackson without taking him out of the game. So I don't want them to injure him because he, again, more predictable it seems, or at least less efficient when they have to decide, do we go with Lamar? Do we go with Henry? Do we try to pass the ball now? Like they seem to lose their identity a little bit when Lamar's on the field, because they don't seem to be able to make their decisions fast enough, and they don't know what situation to use which weapon in. So I think we need to get at least 3 sacks on Lamar Jackson. And again, keep him in the game. I want us to be going after him. I want us to make him feel that back that was nagging him up until this point. I want him to feel it and be scared and his decision-making to be off without taking him out of the game, because I actually fear Snoop Huntley more than I fear Lamar Jackson at this point.
I agree.
Not because of the athlete that he is, but because they seem to know who they are and where they need to go when he's on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Lamar Jackson, it's, do I scramble? Do I pass? Do I hand it off to Henry? Do I dump it off to Henry? So it adds another wrinkle to what do I do on any given play that makes the decision-making and the processing take just a little bit longer. So I think we got to get after Lamar without taking him out.
I love it. Yeah, and a low-key thing that's actually super important you touch base on real quick there. By the Browns winning last week, that really screwed things up for them. They wanted to get a quarterback in this draft. They made that very clear. They need to do that. Shedeur Sanders has 8 touchdowns and 10 picks on the year and really is, he's either good or he's really bad. Mm-hmm. And there's no in between in these games for him. I would have honestly classified last week's game as a really bad game for him, throwing 4 interceptable balls. Pittsburgh just not taking advantage of a couple of those. They just dropped outside the top 5. There are only, in most people's opinion, 2 quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class, which only one has actually declared. That's Fernando Mendoza. The quarterback for Oregon has not declared whether or not he's going to go pro or not. And he's the other one that people consider a possible, first-round selection. Beyond that, we're talking about a quarterback class that has got a bunch of 3rd, 4th round or worse guys whose projections are backup QB in the NFL level at best.
Yeah.
So that means the Browns are going to have to use a bunch of capital to trade up. Whereas if they would have just got out of our way, they'd be sitting in the top 5 and probably in a prime position to take one of these quarterbacks, maybe even not even having to trade up for it. So that might have screwed them up real bad. They might have to use 2, 3, maybe even more first-round picks to trade up to get their guy if they want to do it this year.
And they also have to play the Bengals this week, which if it's a divisional game, anybody could come out on top of that. The Bengals defense isn't too great either. So if they end up winning this week, they could further knock themselves back in the draft order. So we'll see what happens there. But they have 2 first-round picks this year. They might have to use one of those picks that they have, and then they lose out on drafting another first-round talent just to go up and get a guy that they want. And we've seen how the Browns do developing quarterbacks. So hopefully for Fernando Mendoza's sake, it does not end up going to Cleveland. Yeah. Wishing you the best, Fernando, because you've been tearing it up, and we don't wish that on anyone. But when you see that Cleveland area code come up, it's not usually a good sign. So we wish the best for the draft prospects and the worst for the Cleveland Browns as an organization. But yeah, they could further screw themselves out of getting good draft position, which then might require more capital if they're further back in the draft, because you have other quarterback needy teams that are also going to be picking up that phone and calling. So you not only have to give a decent offer, but you have to beat the other offers that are out there. And if there's a more favorable position where that team that's trying to move back says, yeah, I'm going to go with this order because now I'm in a better position and I could potentially even trade back again if I really needed to or wanted to, it makes it infinitely more difficult for the Browns the further back they drop in this draft order, which if they beat the Bengals this week, which is doable, could very likely happen. So
yeah, and realistically too, the Raiders are sitting at number 1 and they need a QB in the worst way. They're not trading away from that. So Mendoza's gone. Yeah. The Raiders will do everything they have to do this weekend to make sure that they lose their final game and retain that number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So that just leaves whoever's left.
And to be fair, I believe the other is Dante Moore, I believe, is with Oregon. And they're still in the playoffs. So the deadline to declare for quarterbacks that are in the playoffs is after the deadline for regular players, which is January 14th for normal players, and the playoffs is a bit later. So you can feasibly still have Moore declare because he's the consensus other top quarterback in this draft. Yeah. And there's still other guys that might yet declare that are still potential first-round talents, just not that first, second, third overall, like not your top 10 kind of guys. So you might see you have like Bo Nix, who's out there doing great, who was, I think, pick 8. And some teams might evaluate like a Ty Simpson at that level. But again, I don't know that he's declared yet either. So you'll see some guys that might still have first round caliber. It's just not going to be those 1 and 2 like you had with like the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or the Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams kind of dynamic in those top 2 guys that we might not see depending on who does and doesn't declare. So if you can't tell, I love the NFL draft, and I love mock drafting, and I love all this kind of stuff. So it's going to be a fun off season, but hopefully, again, another month for us before we talk about ours. We can just talk about the Browns screwing themselves over in a true Browns fashion. So,
all right. So back on pace here. We're going to do our score predictions and get out of here. Get on with the day here. So who would like to go first on their score prediction?
Take it away, Jill.
I can go first. We're whipping out the terrible towel because I'm going to predict the Steelers.
That's a really good Jill costume, Jill.
Thank you. But I'm going to predict the Steelers to win. So we're just going to put the terrible towel on the head. This is my tinfoil, I guess. I say the Steelers win. It's going to be a low-scoring game, though. I just don't think we're going to see anything beyond 21 points. I think we win it by a field goal. I'm calling for 17-14 Steelers.
Awesome. Nick, what do you got today?
I'm in a similar vein. I don't think it's going to be terribly high-scoring, but it is Pittsburgh-Baltimore, and last time we were able to get a little bit of a scoring fest going on here. So I don't think it's going to break 30. I'm going 27-24 Pittsburgh, which is just 2 more points for the Ravens than they had last time, but still having Pittsburgh coming out on top. We know them and they know us, as Tomlin says. So it's going to be a grueling match, and I think there's going to be some points scored. But we'll see. We might have another Boswell-only scoring fest as we have had in years past. So I hope not, but we'll see what happens.
All right, well, that brings it to me, and I have to apologize to all of you because I picked the Steelers last week, and that jinxed them, and they lost because of it. Yep. I picked against them the 3 weeks previous, and they won all 3 of those games. So as much as I want to say that this is going to be 150-2 in this game, because that's where my heart is telling me I'm all in, go Steelers. I want the Steelers to win, and I think they can win this game. I'm not going to predict it because I'm way too superstitious, and I screwed the coach last week picking the Steelers. So I'm going to take the Ravens purely because I think the Steelers will win if I do so. And we're going to take the Ravens in a 24-21 win. But my mind says, my heart says Steelers, but officially my prediction will be the Ravens victory in an effort to make it be a Steelers victory.
See, and I went Steelers this week. I went Browns last week, and I was right. So this week
we've got
Steelers, so I'm right.
We've got all the superstitions going here because when James picked them to lose or predicted them to lose, and I predicted them to win, we won. And when Jill predicted, she was correct. So we've got it all going round the bend here. But we cannot thank you enough for listening. Go ahead and, if you would, give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It does not cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make the whole podcast crew, but especially James Strong, very happy. And until next time, this is Tinfoil Hat Nick, Jill from Ohio, Jill, and James Strong signing off.
Peace.